Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the L9 Series 8 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a really cool team. This was the team that finished number 1 in the previous rank season that ended at the end of February. So this was built by a Japanese player. I've linked their Twitter down in the description below, and congrats to them for finishing first in that previous rank season. And it's a really interesting team. You know, it features a lot of Pokemon that we've seen before, but used in slightly different ways. So as you can see, there are a bunch of different components to this team. There is a Rain Core with Politoed Kingdra and Prankster Thundurus with Rain Dance and Eerie Impulse. This core kind of actually reminds me a lot of VGC 2012 and 2013. Back then, like, Rain was pretty common. Politoed Kingdra Thundurus was definitely like a combination of Pokemon you could see together on teams. And the Thundurus here is really interesting because most people nowadays are running Thundurus offensively. We have seen the return of kind of defensive Prankster Thundurus, especially in Series 8 with Eerie Impulse. And so, you know, this is something that's been picking up a little bit in usage, and I think makes a lot of sense in the context of this team. I think often the idea is to try to set up your Kingdra to do as much damage as possible, and then sweep the game in the end game with Zacian. So Zacian is the restricted choice on this team, and I think that makes a lot of sense because Kingdra is a Pokemon that will often want to Dynamax. So the goal is to, you know, pick up a lot of damage, or put a lot of damage onto your opponent's Pokemon, and then try to sweep with Zacian in the very, very end. Kingdra is really strong, especially when Dynamax, but it often feels like it, you know, just comes short of maybe picking up KOs. But the thing is, if you can just distribute enough damage, Zacian often can close out those games. Politoed here has the Damp Rock as well, so if your opponent doesn't have weather control, it's going to be really, really difficult for them to actually stall out the rain. And then to round out the team, you've got Lumberry Landorus. I think this is a Pokemon that could potentially Dynamax, has that protect it as well. So I think often when players are going up against Landorus, nowadays they expect it not to protect either you know, Swords Dance or an Assault Vest set. So you can use regular Landorus, catch your opponents off guard, and then this really interesting Dragapult set with Will-O-Wisp and Helping Hand, as well as Phantom Force and Dragon Dart. So it could Dynamax theoretically in the right matchup. For example, you could lead Politoed, Dragapult, Helping Hand, Max Phantasm potentially to pick up a KO on something like that super effective against. But you also have a lot of great utility with that Will-O-Wisp and Helping Hand. For example, one combination you could go with is maybe Politoed Kingdra and then either switch Politoed out, or once it faints, you get Dragapult in next to Kingdra and let it go for Helping Hand boosted max moves onto Kingdra. Or you could just lead Dragapult Kingdra, for example, should your opponent not have great answers to that combination. So a lot of cool components here. Last thing to note here is that the Zacian does have Play Rough. Nowadays, you see a lot of people running like Swords Dance or Substitute, but I like to Play Rough just because it does give you Fairy type coverage, which is really, really valuable in this format. And between Steel, Fairy, and Fighting, you know, you hit almost everything in the format for really, really good damage. So I'm excited to try out this team. It's cool to see that this team was able to top the ladder because, you know, there are definitely some really unique components to it, especially the Thundurus, the Dragapult, and the general Rain Core, all in all. So let's get started with today's episode. Thanks so much as always for watching. As always, if you enjoyed, please share support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what your favorite restricted Pokemon to use in the format is at the moment. Let me know in the comment section below. For me, I think I've really enjoyed kind of the bulkier ones, like Solgaleo, Dialga, Necrozma, just to name a couple, like the bulky steel types, because I feel like you have a lot of flexibility in how you can play with them. And I think those, the teams that we've tried built around those, I've enjoyed the most. So that'd be my answer, but curious on everyone else's answers. And yeah, let's just get started. I did take the last 2 days off. As I mentioned recently, I've moved, so I've been, you know, just getting things together. It was a little bit hectic time, but excited to be back and making content. I think it's been a while since I've gone 2 days without an upload, so excited to be back. Definitely, I've been missing making videos. And for the first game of the day, we're against a fellow Aaron, so that's fun. And they've got a really interesting team. It's rather bulky, but they have, like, Whimsicott is interesting here because it does give them a speedier option. And then everything else is like relatively bulky, but can also do a fair amount of damage. You know, the first thing I'm always thinking about when I see Necrozma is I'm assuming Weakness Policy and Swords Dance. Like, you really can't let that Pokemon get set up, so that's something to watch out for. Eerie Impulse Thundurus is pretty neat here. Zacian's neat. I'm actually really nervous about Necrozma. And I think Lapras is also really good into us, but I think this is where Eerie Impulse Thundurus can come up huge. One thing to note is that the Politoed is Perish Song, right? So one endgame we can set ourselves up for is to just try to pick up some quick knockouts and then Perish Song. I honestly wonder whether or not Thundurus plus the Zacian is the move here, because Zacian can at least take attacks decently, and then like go with Politoed and Kingdra in the back. Because I think my opponent's Lapras is the main thing I need to deal with right now. And these two Pokemon can deal with Lapras way better than any other combination. Like, I don't think Dragapult could be interesting for Will-O-Wisp, but I'm not the biggest fan of it in this matchup because my opponent has Tailwind. Although I guess we can still outspeed a lot of their Pokemon with Dragapult under Tailwind. I really don't like Landorus in this matchup, primarily because of the Lapras. If my opponent didn't have the Lapras, actually, I think Landorus is a must-bring into this matchup. But sometimes one Pokemon is like the difference between wanting to bring a Pokemon and because it's just so central to their team, right? If you look at their team comp, Lapras just looks really, really good. So the idea behind leading Thundurus plus the Zacian here is to actually apply early pressure. When I was talking about the team earlier, I was like, you know, you typically want to distribute damage with Kingdra in the early game, maybe close out games with Zacian. But in this matchup, like, it does feel like Zacian is just a better lead. And they go with Whimsicott Lapras, which I'm totally okay with because I can just go for an Eerie Impulse onto Lapras immediately to significantly reduce its damage output. And if Lapras is going to be the primary Pokemon maxing on my opponent's team, this is a great start for us. And I think it's pretty rare for you to lead Lapras here and not want to max, although I could see them protecting or switching out in this position. I think I'm content just going for Eerie Impulse, and they don't have a great Steel switch in other than Rotom Heat, but if Rotom Heat switches in, they're still taking a lot, so I'm just going to go with Behemoth Blade here as well. I think that's a pretty solid turn. They're just going to switch out Lapras, but that's okay. It's going to be Rotom coming in, but we get an Eerie Impulse off against, and I can taunt it next turn, so you're really not, you know, that much of a threat. I guess Whimsicott could go for... Well, let's see. It is slower than Thundurus, which is interesting. It's attacking last, so Trick Room might actually go up here. Wow, that would be really interesting. Okay. Would not have expected that. Yeah, Rotom takes that pretty well. It is Trick Room. Wow. That's fascinating. Okay. It's not the end of the world for us. I mean, like, that's obviously a great play by my opponent. Was not expecting that at all. That's really neat. I don't mind taunting Rotom here, because I already Eerie Impulsed you, and you might want to Will-O-Wisp here. So taunt and Sacred Sword in a Rotom seems okay here. I guess they could fake Tears, like, overheat me, but they're going to switch Whimsicott out, which is fine. Maybe Necrozma comes in. Yep. So now the main thing to watch out for is, like, Swords Dance on that thing. But by taunting, you just can't go for Will-O-Wisp, which is the main thing. And if you overheat, so be it. You're a -2 already. It won't do that much. And yeah, they go for Will-O-Wisp. Okay, nice. We get Sacred Sword off. It's quite the bulky Rotom. It is going to hang on. That's one turn of Trick Room gone. That's fascinating. Whimsicott with Trick Room. It's really, really good for my opponent here. Honestly, I think we just switch into Politoed here. And I'm committed. Like, I'm down to Thunder into Necrozma. Switch this into Politoed. Yeah. It's just going to be awkward because, like, that Whimsicott can probably Tailwind as well. So the fact that they have Tailwind and Trick Room is very, very interesting. Now, they don't have great weather control, so we should get the Rain up, but I'm not sure I necessarily actually want the Rain right now. Necrozma is definitely a pretty scary threat because it's just so bulky. And it is Swords Dance. Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier, which is definitely going to be a problem for us. Now, they don't max, which means we'll actually do a sizable amount of damage with Thunder, which is quite nice. I also could have stayed in with the Necrozma, or sorry, the Zacian and doubled up onto Necrozma. That could have been interesting as well. Paralysis would be nice here just to make it tougher for my opponent to attack in subsequent turns. Pretty good damage off Thunder, actually. No para, unfortunately, but that's okay. Let's see. I think I'm just going to Thunder into Necrozma and Scald into that slot. I just need damage onto this thing. I think Rotom switching out into Lapras is super likely. You're not going to give up your Necrozma boost. That's not switching out. If I'm really nervous, like, maybe Necrozma just one-shots Poly here, actually. But I think Rotom goes into Lapras in this position. Yeah. So I could have Thunder that. You probably max Necrozma at this point, I would think, because you've got your Swords Dance off. Yep. We're almost, like, done with Trick Room, but that was just a really, really nice, like, Trick Room on turn 1. I just wasn't expecting on Whimsicott at all, and I think, like, it is a pretty rare attack to carry on Whimsicott, but that's why Whimsicott's such a cool Pokemon. The amount of flexibility you have with that Pokemon, like, you can run so many surprise moves that your opponent won't often expect, and I think that's really nice for it. So, I will go first with Politoed, which means I get a Scald off. Burn would be really nice. Unfortunately, no Burn. They're going to Quake into Politoed. Let's see if +2 Max Quake's enough to actually KO. I'm not sure. Nice. Politoed hangs on. That's actually a really big survival. The only scary thing here is that it does get a special defense boost, but we're just doing so much damage now. Like, even though it's been boosted up, like, yeah, it's almost gone. That was a crit, which was quite fortunate. I don't think Skull's going to KO here. I definitely don't mind Eerie Impulsing into Lapras. Because I think Kingdra and Rain plus Zacian endgame is looking really good. And this is the last turn of Trick Room from my opponent's end, so the crit was definitely a little bit fortunate. We'll take that. But in this position, I think it's fine to just Eerie Impulse and go for a Scald. I don't even think Lapras will outspeed us under Tailwind, because we have Zacian and Kingdra in the back. So, the crit makes things a little bit easier. I mean, even without the crit, I think we had ways to pretty easily KO the Necrozma anyway, because it had already taken so much damage. They're going to go for Freeze Dry here. Okay, onto Politoed. So they're probably going to pick up a double KO, but that's fine. Because I just bring in Kingdra and I bring out the Zacian. Ooh, Max Rockfall. They do have a way to change the weather. Okay. Okay. It's something a little bit scary, but I guess I could just reset the weather with Kingdra going for a Max Geyser, so it's not the end of the world. And they don't have any defense boosts onto Lapras, so I wonder if I can just one-shot that. I'm worried about Freeze Dry. Obviously, I have to Dynamax Kingdra here, but they're at -2 special attack, and they're not Life Orb either. So I really think it's fine. Like, we can... Now we have the end game with Kingdra and Zacian. So I can Dynamax the Kingdra, I can Max Geyser into the Necrozma, and just go for... Okay, actually, I don't know if I want a Sacred Sword, because I am a little bit nervous about activating Weakness Policy here on Lapras. Because I think... Well, if we're running Necrozma, I think Policy really should be on Necrozma, but I don't want to get baited like I did last time. I also hope Geyser actually KOs Necrozma. Has a special defense boost, but it's at like 15%. Let's see, Sacred Sword does, what, super effective, so it's basically 180. I don't think it one-shots Lapras, but I also don't think you're going to be Weakness Policy. I think you're definitely Light Clay here, actually, so... Yeah, I'm just going to Sacred Sword into Lapras, Dynamax, and go for a Geyser here into Necrozma. And I think this is what I was saying, right? Zacian endgame is really, really good if you're able to chip away at your opponent's Pokemon. And in this game, like, we already chipped away at the Rotom. Whimsicott's not a huge offensive threat. If we get the Rain up as well, then you really can't do very much damage to Zacian. So one reason I really like this team is because you use the Rain, obviously, to boost Kingdra, but the Zacian is such a good restricted partner on this team, and it's a really strong restricted choice because Zacian is obviously weak to Fire type, and when you have the Rain, obviously, you reduce that Fire type weakness. And never mind, Sacred Sword just one-shots. Wow. Okay, that's huge. We'll see if Life Orb Max Geyser can KO +1 Spadef Necrozma at 15%. I would think so, but it makes me nervous. Okay, it does get the KO. Nice. So that crit was a little bit fortunate. Without the crit, I'm not sure Max Geyser would have KO'd, but without the crit, I think I would just double up onto the Necrozma because we got the Eerie Impulse onto the Lapras. Once again, it's always good to just kind of theory these things because it helps you become a better player. Like, think about, let's say I didn't get this RNG, or let's say this, like, a little bit of luck didn't happen. How would you play differently? If you don't have a great answer to that, that means the luck was probably really, really critical, and then you don't want to, you often want to put yourself in positions where, like, you don't need to rely on luck to win the game, right? So, I think that the crit definitely helped us and made it a lot easier, but I think we were still in pretty good shape because we conserved our late game Dynamax, and we were able to just do a lot of damage to Necrozma before Dynamax, though. That Thundurus for 40% was really, really nice. So, they bring out Whimsicott. I think it's fine to just Behemoth Blade and Airstream into this thing. Like, Rotom's definitely not winning this endgame. There's not much damage from my opponent's end at this point, and I don't want them to get Trick Room up. But I think the thing about Whimsicott in the endgame is that it just doesn't do much damage, right? Other than maybe Moonblast, but this is the really nice thing about Zacian, right? We had the Rain up, so like even overheats from Rotom wouldn't one-shot us. And the main thing is we were able to just, you know, make sure our opponent's Dynamax didn't do very much against us. So while Trick Room was scary, the thing is because we had a favorable lead matchup, and that's the thing, right? If I just lead Poly Kingdra, like I didn't feel very good about my matchup into Lapras. So the idea behind the Thundurus and Zacian lead was to force the Lapras out, make it less effective in the early game. Also, because my opponent has Lapras and the... Ooh, Electro Web, that's pretty cool. Because they have the Zacian and the Necrozma, or sorry, not Zacian, Lapras and Necrozma, they can only Dynamax one of the two, so as soon as we get one of them to commit the Dynamax, it's a lot easier to play around. Until then, you know, we want to, you know, play it safe and figure out which option that they want to prioritize in this matchup. So, yeah, pretty fun matchup here in the end. I think that Trick Room on Whimsicott was really, really cool. Once again, like, I love surprise tech moves like that. Whimsicott's one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, honestly, and I think it's really, really strong. It's been really strong throughout, you know, 2020, 2021, and I think part of it is because of its flexibility, right? You do expect Tailwind or Moonblast / Dazzling Gleam typically, but then you have Switcheroo, Taunt, Protect, Encore. Endeavor isn't really used that much nowadays. It was really common, or not really common, but it was one of the more common moves back in the day. So yeah, this Tailwind, Protect, Moonblast, and Trick Room. Really interesting. So no Taunt. Yep, it was Light Clay Lapras. It would just be really surprising for it to be Policy when you have a Necrozma on the team. Miracle Seed, Rillaboom. Nasty plot Electro while Will-O-Wisp over here. That's pretty cool. And then Swords Dance, triple attack. So no Trick Room. Because, yeah, when I saw Swords Dance, I was thinking maybe Swords Dance and Trick Room, but they had Rockfall as well. But the main thing, like I said, was we were able to just do a lot of damage before it was able to Dynamax. And that's the downside of committing a Dynamax. And then Politoed hanging on was really clutch as well. Because it meant that I didn't have to force to switch in something. I can just give up both Pokemon. And I think one thing to take away from that game is just the ability to stall out Trick Room. Because turn 1 worked out pretty well for us, like, they were forced to bring in something under Trick Room, and then the Eerie Impulse on Thundurus was absolutely huge as well. So all of the, you know, components of this team kind of came together in that last one, which was neat. I think Eerie Impulse is going to be huge for us here again, especially because Kyogre is one of their main offensive threats. Now, they do have that Malamar, which is really interesting, because they have Prankster stuff on their team, so I wonder if, you know, there's any shenanigans there with Malamar's ability. Zacian's okay here. Dragapult for Will-O-Wisp was pretty compelling, actually, to burn Landorus or Malamar. They don't have great weather control, right? I could totally just go Polykingdra. Which isn't half bad. I think the main thing I'm worried about is maybe Whimsicott plus Landorus from their end. Whimsicott plus Landorus. What's my best bet against that? I guess I could just go Politoed Kingdra, but then they can just go like Helping Hand Rockfall, Helping Hand Quake, or Tailwind. Well, you'd Tailwind, you wouldn't Helping Hand. Tailwind Max Rockfall turn 1. But maybe that's not so bad with Kingdra Poly lead. I'm thinking Kingdra Politoed, Zacian in the back for sure. Yeah, maybe I don't bring Thundurus because the only thing I'm actually using Eerie Impulse for is that Kyogre, right? You know what? I kind of want to try the Dragapult lead here. I'm going to go with Dragapult plus Zacian, actually, with Polykingdra in the back. I'm not sure if this is the best line of action to take, but I think it's just interesting. I want to try it out. Anytime you're, like, playing with a new team, too, I think it's good to just try out all the different, like, lead combinations, see what works and see what doesn't work. You know, just experiment and kind of get into the flow of things. So, I think this is interesting because that Malamar definitely raises a couple of eyebrows. Will-O-Wisp in general and Dragapult I think can be pretty useful. And yeah, it's going to be Whimsicott and Malamar. So I kind of want to just burn Malamar here. I'm wondering if it's Lumberry. Trick Room stuff could also be coming out, but I'm actually very happy with this lead that we got. So nice. Yeah, the Zacian as a lead is actually a really strong option. I wonder if you're Trick Room here as well. Like, I honestly really just want to Will-O-Wisp this thing and play rough into it. I feel like that covers any option. I mean, I guess you could, like, Moonblast Dragapult, but we have Focus Sash here. One of the things I love about the Zacian here is just, once again, Steel plus Fairy is really, really good, like, defensive typing. Okay, they just go for Tailwind. Is Malamar fast enough to outspeed us under Tailwind? I'm honestly not even sure. Nice, Dragapult still gets the Will-O-Wisp off first. Beautiful. So let's see if you're Lumberry. Even if you're not, I mean, if I just get the KO here, that's a great start. Okay, they go for Superpower. That's fine. Yeah, with the burn, it's huge. So, once again, I love taking conventional Pokemon and running them in, like, slightly unconventional ways, and that's what this team does so well. You have the Will-O-Wisp on the Dragapult, you have the Eerie Impulse on the Thundurus, and both of those, when people see in Team Preview, I think immediately they typically, you know, they shift to thinking, hey, this is definitely just going to be, like, an offensive set. The scary thing here is I think Kyogre comes in, and without Thundurus in the back, like, you can just spam Water Spout a bit right now, so we're not necessarily in a fantastic position, but I think with Kingdra in the back, you know what I should have done, actually? I shouldn't have brought Politoed in this game. I think Thundurus over Politoed would have been a better move. Okay, I want to play a little bit defensively right now. Like, Politoed's pretty useless, so I'm down to switch Dragapult out into Politoed, protect the Zacian. We're just trying to stall out Tailwind right now, right? And then Kingdra is not a bad max option, especially if we KO Whimsicott before they get another Tailwind off, and then give Zacian a speed boost as well. But I do think I should have brought Thundurus here, now that I think about it. Because even though turn 1 worked out well for us, they still have Tailwind, which is pretty scary. Okay, they have Fake Tears. Wow, they Fake Tears into Dragapult, so that's impressive. Because we have Clear Body. But they're probably reading a switch there, honestly. I wonder if this is enough to just KO Politoed. It honestly might be. I think it will. Holy cow, that's strong. Okay. Well, that's definitely scary, but it's okay. Because we're playing towards the Kingdra Zacian endgame. I can bring in Kingdra now. They have Moonblast. You can max Hailstorm, which would be really interesting. You could also just Fake Tears Kingdra. How many turns of Tailwind do they have left? 2, right? So we want to KO them this next turn. I think I'm okay going for max Airstream here onto Whimsicott, switching Zacian out into Dragapult. Yeah. You know, even if you Moonblast Water Spout here, the good thing is like the Kingdra Kyogre dynamic is a little bit awkward because neither of us are doing too much to the other end. And I think like one of the maybe slight downsides of today's 2 games is that we're going up against restricted mons that resist Steel, right, in Necrozma and Kyogre. So Behemoth Blade isn't as strong as it would be against some other options. That being said, a fair amount of restricted Pokemon actually do resist Steel, so you know, that's the thing. Like, you shouldn't expect to just be able to one-shot like a lot of restricteds with Zacian, but you don't necessarily need it to, which is good. That last turn was a little bit frustrating from my end because I gave up. Like, I actually could have stayed with Dragapult and gone for a Phantom Force, which would have bought me another turn, but I was just expecting Moonblast and Water Spout there. Okay, so they're going to Dynamax. You know what could be really interesting? Dynamaxing Whimsicott for max Starfall. That would be fascinating, but nah, they're going to max Kyogre. That's fine. This is definitely going to be scary, though. Fake Tears plus Hailstorm would be really interesting, although then I would just get a Speed Boost, Protect, Phantom Force, I think. Yeah, turn 1 was good for us, but I think, like, not bringing Thundurus may have hurt a little bit. Although, I guess, like, well, how would I have even gotten Thundurus in safely after the lead matchup, right? Because, like, I'm not switching into a Water Spout. So I'd probably Phantom Force with Dragapult, Protect Zacian, and then maybe sack Thundurus. So I don't actually think I could have gotten it in, like, in a good position anyway. Okay, they are going to go for Fake Tears on the Kingdra. That's fine, although, I don't know, maybe I could have protected there. Curious if they go for Hailstorm. Nope, they just Geyser. Okay. That works for me, honestly. They're just lowering Kingdra's special defense, which makes sense. Man, you can see how strong Kyogre is as a restricted option. So they're bringing her down to our Focus Sash. Having Sash here is actually really, really nice, I would say. Because now I can Phantom Force this next turn. Yeah, they are Sash on Whimsicott. Although I guess you expect the Phantom Force, it's a fairly obvious option. There is actually an argument to not Phantom Forcing. The only problem is I take so much damage if you buy like another Fake Tears move. But we have Zacian in the back. Zacian is very good for us to have in the back, I think. So I think I'm willing to just Airstream here and go for Phantom Force. Oh, we do have Helping Hand here with Dragapult as well, actually. I should have thought about that a little bit more. They don't go for Fake Tears again. Huh. I wonder if they forgot that we're faster now because of the speed boost. Yeah. I think Dragon Darting here was better, because I think Kyogre should be targeting the Dragapult slot. Now, maybe you're worried about my Will-O-Wisp, though, and you end up targeting Kingdra. And if they do waste a max turn on... But I think if you have Hailstorm here, you just end up... Oh, actually, I guess if you Hailstorm, I didn't have any way around it anyway. They just go for Lightning, which we should survive. Sheesh, that's a lot, though. If they went for another Fate Tears there, I actually think we'd be in really bad shape. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't, and I think it was a misplay on their end, and my best explanation for it is them just forgetting that we had a speed boost. But this is actually really nice, right? Because now I can protect Kingdra, stall out your last turn at Dynamax. Both of our turns at Dynamax are over, but we have Zacian in the back, and they have Landorus. So Zacian plus Kingdra should win this endgame for us, I would think. I guess I don't even need to protect here with Kingdra. I can just go for a Geyser, because most... Unless you have Protect on the Landorus, but even if you do, my endgame now is the Zacian plus Dragapult. So I like just going for a Max Geyser here, honestly. Yeah, I think if my opponent went for Fate Tears plus Max Lightning last turn, they had the game won. So, yeah. I guess they were just trying to Moonblast there, like I said, and maybe forgetting about my tail. I'm just trying to think if there's any other coverage that you get by not clicking Fate Tears there. You do cover for me going for a Protect on Kingdra. So maybe they weren't expecting Phantom Force. They're like, okay, maybe Kingdra protects here. I'm going to cover for that option and try to Moonblast into Dragapult. But I don't... Actually, yeah, I do have a reason to protect Kingdra, and that's because if I'm worried about Fate Tears plus Max Lightning that turn, that'd be a reason to go for it. So... The reason I didn't want to Max Guard Kingdra here is because I don't want to miss, like, a Muddy Water, and they don't... like I said, most Landoruses aren't carry Protect, which is funny because this, the Landers on this team actually does have Protect, but yeah, that gets us the knockout, which is huge. Because now we have Helping Hand Dragapult. The Sash came up huge here on Dragapult in the end as well. And yeah, this Dragapult set is so interesting because you could Dynamax it. It still does a fair amount of damage, but even as a non-max option, you're actually not going to max it most of the time with this team, which is really neat. So, yeah. Okay, so we get the knockout there, which is great. And yeah, now their Dynamax is over. We have +1 Zacian in this endgame, so... I don't want to misplay Rough. I think the best action to take is just Phantom Force and Sacred Sword, honestly. Actually, the best action is Protect Phantom Force. I think that's always the best play. Because it just guarantees that we get a Phantom Force off while not taking any damage. Oh, wait. Is it? If I Protect Phantom Force, then the next turn... Well, the next turn I'm pretty sure Sacred Sword into Phantom Force should KO. But I think it's better to actually just Sacred Sword here in Phantom Force. Wait, does it matter? Isn't it the same number of actions anyway? If I Sacred Sword and Phantom Force here and you KO... doesn't make that much of a difference, I think. Also, does Dragon Darts do more in this position? I'm not 100% sure. Either way, I don't think it matters. I'm pretty sure we should just win off Protect and Forcing here. Oh, I guess another thing to consider is the rain turns. It's always better to stall out rain turns. So yeah. I have Play Rough here, but I'm not going to risk missing. They end up forfeiting, but yeah. The only way I thought of losing was Origin Pulse crit on a turn in which like they survive a double up from my end. Like I don't think you'd ever survive a double up from Zacian plus the Dragapult, but in case they're like max HP, max defense, you know, just trying to think of like the worst case scenario and how we can prevent the worst case scenario. I know sometimes people watch these end games and they're like, you're overthinking things, dude, like just click the buttons. And you're like, the people that say that aren't necessarily wrong, but the reason why I try to think of every scenario possible is because sometimes the game feels like it's all but one, but then it just like slips out of grasp because you don't consider like this one obscure scenario or them just being like super defensive. So typically it's just good to like cover those options, still make the best play possible, just consider like what can happen. And we're up against wow, 3 Whimsicott teams in a row. It's definitely not the best for Politoed Kingdra, but they're still doing really well here, so I can't complain. But this is interesting because we're up against Sun. However, they're almost entirely special, so Eerie Impulse Thundurus is going to be fantastic for us here. Thundurus Dragapult's interesting. This one's tricky because all of our Pokemon are decent. But like, how can we not bring... Oh, we also have Rain Dance with Thundurus. Actually, that's one thing I should have been considering more. Thundurus Kingdra lead. Because I can just Rain Dance, get the speed boost on Kingdra immediately, and start attacking, which is really cool. Poly feels so bad here, actually, other than just being able to control the weather. Which, of course, is a good reason to bring it. Thundurus Dragapult here, once again, is really compelling as well, because we can burn Thundurus should it be physical. So maybe Thundurus, Dragapult, Kingdra, and Zacian. Maybe I don't bring Politoed here. And I can Rain Dance with Thundurus. That might seem really bizarre, but I think my opponent, because they see that I have Rain, like is... no, I was going to say, are you more hesitant to go with your Sun component? Venusaur is still decent. But if you don't know about this team, actually, then you have to respect Dynamax Thundurus on our end. So yeah. I'm not sure, but I think that we can get away with not bringing Politoed with this team. They're going to go with Whimsicott and Spectre. Okay, that works for me, because I think I can just Eerie Impulse Spectre. Sorry, Calyrex. This could be a Dynamax Dragapult game, actually. But because I have Phantom Force, I really like just going for Eerie Impulse here. And this is like what I mean, right? Poly Kingdra didn't feel really good here. Dynamaxing this is actually really interesting, but I don't think they're going to Dynamax. Well, maybe you don't expect Focus Sash. But is that worth trading just to KO? No, I think it's better to just Eerie Impulse here and go for a Phantom Force. Yeah. And if you Dynamax, you're going to eat up a Phantom Force the subsequent turn. Oh, it's switcheroo. Okay, at least we didn't Dynamax. And hilariously enough, they actually end up getting a Focus Sash out of it. Which is obviously a very good item for them. Ah, nice play. Nice play, nice play, nice play. At least Dragapult survives. We can get Kingdra in. We can Rain Dance Geyser. Oh, them getting a Sash is actually so sad. Oh, I guess I could just bring in a Zacian instead now that I think about it. Because you're not doing that much to Zacian, and you're at -2. And you can take away Zacian's item as well, which is good. But yeah, I think Prankster Whimsicott with that switcheroo, I mean, we were using it previously. It's really good. Especially with Calyrex Shadow. So, yeah. I'm glad I didn't at least Dynamax Dragapult. I should have considered the option of switcheroo because I didn't even think about it, but wait, what? Okay. Well, that was a little unfortunate. I really wanted to play that game out. I don't think that was on my end. Okay. I mean, okay. I'm sure that was just their internet dropping, because I don't think they were in that bad shape. But maybe they were just... It was like a pretty good turn 1 for us, all things considered, honestly. Because, like, we get a free switch in, and you can't Dynamax, so you're basically forced to switch out. Alright, next game here. Is this just Binge's Yveltal team? For reference, that's the Yveltal team we featured on the channel previously. Wait, does Kingdra outspeed max speed Alecki? I don't think it does. 256. I don't think that's enough. But maybe that's okay. I mean, if they're not Eerie Impulse, then it's really not a big deal. Zacian is amazing against Yveltal. If I'm my opponent, I'm considering not even bringing it. Will-O-Wisp Dragapult's also sick here. I feel like we have a good matchup. I just don't know what the best 4 to go with are. Like, I like Poly Kingdra. You know, Thundurus Kingdra is actually really cool here. But Poly Kingdra, like, I could just max Kingdra and one-shot so many things, honestly. So Poly Kingdra, Zacian. Who do I want as the last one? I don't think I really need Thundurus here. I can't even Eerie Impulse the Yveltal. So yeah, I don't think... Thundurus' only reason would be to, like, set up the rain. But if I'm bringing Poly Kingdra, I don't think I need it. So Poly Kingdra, Zacian, and Dragapult's actually kind of interesting here. It actually does a decent amount of... otherwise, it's Landorus. But I don't think I'm going to max Landorus. So I actually like Dragapult here because I can Will-O-Wisp into so many of my opponent's Pokemon. That being said, I guess they probably have Lamon Landorus, but still being able... Sorry, Lamon... Oh yeah, Lamon Landorus. So that means I can burn Metagross. And I can Phantom Force. So... I think this Dragapult set is just so interesting. It's just built so differently. And I love... I love and hate Will-O-Wisp, as you all know, but I think Will-O-Wisp on something like Dragapult's so big, because if you could just burn a Dynamax Pokemon turn 1, you're often in just such good shape, right? So they do go with Yveltal. Alecki's going to be out next to it. Kingdra's in a good spot. Alecki... maxing could be really interesting. We got the rain up, so I don't mind switching Politoed out or protecting it. Also, one thing to think about is if I just pick up 2 knockouts, I just Perish Song, right? So that's something to consider. I can see Alecki protecting as Yveltal goes for like Snarl or Dynamax, like Max Airstream. I don't know. I don't feel pressure to switch out, so I think I'm just going to go for a Dynamax and then just go for a Geyser here onto Alecki. They should be max speed Alecki, so unfortunately I think that means they outspeed our Kingdra, but that's fine. The fact that they brought out Yveltal is fine with me, because the thing is that Zacian has a phenomenal matchup against Yveltal. So, like, you know, if you Dynamax Yveltal, fine, Zacian can deal with it. If you don't Dynamax it, then also Zacian can deal with it, right? Like, the reality is that Yveltal's just not very good into our team here. So, I think my opponent's best play here is maybe to protect Alecki turn 1 to bypass a turn of my Dynamax. Yeah, well played, and they made it. Help me hand Geyser into Yveltal there would have been super sick. I was also thinking of Airstreaming, and I didn't make that play. I think we're probably going to see a Snarl, but I'm not that worried about, like, not doing much damage, because late game Zacian is still just really good into my opponent's team, even if you Snarl away, right? I think Yveltal typically wants to play, like, a really slow and bulky game. But kudos to my opponent for identifying their best play turn 1, and yeah, they go for Snarl, so helping hand Geyser into Yveltal would have been a really sick play. There's a sizable amount of damage, honestly, but that's okay. I think I should switch Politoed out into Dragapult here and just go for another Geyser onto Alecki. Because the thing is, after Alecki's KO'd, we just outspeed my opponent's entire team. And they actually switch Alecki out. Oh, I should have considered that, because I think Rillaboom comes in here, so I could have Worm-Winded. Yeah. Nice play. It should be... Well, I like Worm-Winding there. Yeah, typically a little bit better. I think that just would have been a smarter play. But this is okay. Like, I'm still not that nervous, honestly, because, like... What's interesting is maybe switching out Dragapult next turn to give a speed boost onto Zacian. Because Zacian at +1 should just destroy my opponent's team. That Max Geyser actually still did a ton despite being Snarled, so I'll take that. And they'll just go for another Snarl, which is okay. It's a lot of damage on a Dragapult though, so don't know if I like that switch too much. You can Glide Dragapult. I don't think that's enough for a KO. I honestly think we switch out into Zacian here to give it a speed boost. I just want to double check the Zacian speed, but if we can outspeed... Actually, it's definitely Airstream either way, because we want both of our Pokemon to outspeed. So we go out into Zacian here. We're going to Airstream. And I think the really tricky thing for my opponent is that, like, what do you really do, right? Like, they're playing really well defensively, but we just have so much offense that I think we can just overwhelm them with offense. Yeah. But we can just overwhelm them with offense. So, we're going to get Zacian in here. I feel like it's very tough for them to win this. They're going to protect, but honestly, I don't mind that because, like, I guess you can glide into Kingdra next turn. But I'm probably just going to protect Kingdra the subsequent turn, I think. Nice protect, though. Yeah, it was clear they weren't assault vested based off the damage from Max Geyser, so I think they played these first 3 turns perfectly, installing out my Kingdra Max. Like, yeah, perfect switch in, perfect protects. So, really well done on their end there. Kudos there. We can set ourselves up for the Parasol endgame, though. We just need to knock out the Rillaboom and the Regieleki, because those are the threats to my Politoed, right? If you're my opponent, you obviously want to consider gliding here. So I think protecting Kingdra is probably just our best bet, because despite being at -3 special attack, we can still knock out a Regieleki with, like, a Draco Meteor. So let's see. I think in this position... Who do I think is their last one? Lando or Incin? The thing is, if you have either of those, you don't have a great max option. But, oh, they don't have a fighting resist, do they, right? So Sacred Sword is always safe here into Rillaboom. And I think we just protect here with Kingdra. Yeah. So our goal is to just knock out 2 Pokemon. And we're ignoring the Yveltal because Yveltal's not an offensive threat. You're not going to want to Dynamax that. They are going to switch out... Oh, maybe Landorus comes in here. Okay, they bring out Metagross, though. That's fine. Because the thing is, you take so much damage before you Dynamax now with Metagross that... even after you max next turn, like, we're still in pretty darn good shape, right? Yeah, we do almost 50% there, and they're just going to try to Oblivion Wing into Kingdra, which is totally fine with me. Okay. I guess, though, Metagross can obviously go for Max Quake onto Zacian. Yeah, honestly, my opponent played this game so well. Like, super, super well, so, like, full props to them. Max Quake here is scary. I don't know if it one-shots us, but if so, it's actually a really big deal, isn't it? See, I don't know if Oblivion Wing KOs. I also don't think it's that smart to protect and switch here. But if it doesn't KO and you do Oblivion Wing, then we can burn the Metagross. I went for the protect and the switch out. I think I would have preferred... Yeah, this is a game in which, like, I think we had a really good team advantage, but my opponent outplayed me super hard in the first 3 turns. I think this matchup is really tough for them, and they did exactly what they needed to, which was waste 2 turns of Kingdra's Max and get Metagross in like the right position. So, yeah, this is like a masterclass on switching, honestly. A game like this, like, you know, it's always good to have the team advantage, but you also have to play properly, and I think they just, like, took some nice risks, and it really paid off for them. Even if we worm-winded the Rillaboom switch, and I don't think that would have helped too much, but I could have predicted Regieleki switching out there. Like, their switches in this game were immaculate. Ooh, okay, they went for foul play, which means you're quaking here, too, I think, into it. Which is a really big deal, because now I can Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, that's actually huge for us. Okay, nice. I think that play actually instantly puts us in a really good spot, because had they KO Dragapult here, we would have been in pretty bad shape. And I have the play rough as well, so I think we can just one-shot Yveltal and burn Metagross. If Will-O-Wisp and play rough connect, I think it's just the game-winning play, basically. So, we just need to hope to hit here. These moves are not exactly the most accurate, 90 and 85, so yeah, you know, the odds are in our favor to hit both of these, but a miss could be absolutely detrimental for either. The good thing is they don't have a defense boost on either, and once again, this is where Will-O-Wisp Dragapult is just so good for us. So, yeah, like, I honestly think they've played this game nearly perfectly. I'm glad that I played a little bit more defensively last turn, but it was a little bit scary because they could have just gone for Quake. Oh, they actually max guard. Okay, I'm totally fine with that. The play rough misses. That stinks. And Dragapult's going to go down now. Okay, that's definitely a bummer, but I don't know if your Max Quake will one-shot the Zacian, so we can still definitely win this game. But, I think we put ourselves in a really big winning position, and, like, the majority... Like, if Play Rough hits there because they protected, we should just win the game. So, 90% of the time we're good there. Unfortunately, that's the downside of using Play Rough. But but it is what it is. We can still win this, though, so let's not give up. I'm going to go into Poly here. Let's see, we could still Scald, Burn. Zacian will still just kind of beat my opponent's entire team because I have that speed boost. So, like, this is still very far from over. And, like, if anything, that just speaks to how good the matchup is in our favor. But definitely a bummer to miss that. I am just going to go for Scald here and play Rough. Because I think Play Rough should one-shot there. We're at +1 attack. They don't have any defensive boosts. They don't have Intimidate in the back either. And if we get that KO, we still have Dragapult out, right? So then you bring in something to replace the Dragapult, or sorry, the Yveltal, but Incineroar and Rillaboom can't deal with Zacian either. Zacian is now faster than both of those, so we can just outspeed and pick up a knockout onto either. And then Dragapult's free to just Will-O-Wisp Metagross again. So the Play Rough hit was more important. Now, one way I could have circumvented that was maybe going for a Phantom Force on a Metagross, and then just Play Rough Yveltal. That could have actually been pretty interesting. That could have covered, like, how... Could have covered for the miss. Let's see if Play Rough one-shots. If not, then it actually didn't matter too much, but yeah, it is going to one-shot. So, you know, the upside of this Zacian is that it runs Play Rough. Downside is that Play Rough can miss, but I still think it's... Oh, and they... Ooh, that's interesting. Max Hailstorming. Okay. I actually don't think that was the right play. Because I think you need damage onto my Zacian. I don't mind that you've gotten weather control here because I can just switch Politoed out and back in. No burn, unfortunately. Wait, unless the Incineroar still outspeeds Zacian at +1 speed. That actually might be the case. I should have double-checked that. That would be scary. Yeah, Incineroar comes back in. The thing is, I could also protect Scald here if that's something I'm actually worried about. Should be max speed Incineroar, which is so scary. Ooh, we're not max speed. But we hit 270. I assume we outspeed the Incineroar here. If not, then that's actually going to be really bad. I guess I could confirm by going for Protect and a Switch here. The Switch is kind of obvious to read. What if I don't... What if I, like, just Protect and Scald? Or I could just double Protect here. Actually, I kind of like that. Just see who they protect. Because also Metagross, if you're running Earthquake instead of Stomping Tantrum, you'd have to side Earthquake your Incineroar here. Okay, nice. Yeah, we're faster. We actually should win the game here then, unless they crit onto Zacian. Because I think all we do now is just Sacred Sword and... Well, you actually switch Incineroar out, I would think. And they are Earthquake as well. Ooh, okay, nice. Yeah, I think you have to switch Incineroar out here into Rillaboom. But then that's awkward, because you do less damage. So this is why getting that speed boost onto Zacian earlier was really important. I am really surprised they went for that Hailstorm, honestly. Especially because there was only one more turn of Hail left anyway. Maybe they were reading into a Kingdra switch there. All we have to do is not throw the game right now. So let's Sacred Sword here into the Incineroar. Let's switch Politoed out into Kingdra. There's actually an argument to make to not switch out Politoed here, I think. But I don't mind resetting the weather. This is why the Kingdra... I love the Kingdra plus the... maybe they go for a double protect. The Kingdra plus the Zacian combo here, because you can give it a speed boost. They go for it, but they don't get it. Okay. I do think that was actually their best play. Like, your play is to basically hope to get the double and maybe get a crit there. But because they don't get it, I think we should win the game now. And I think, like, my opponent just needed damage on the Zacian. And by not max quaking that turn, you know, we ended up being in a really, really good spot. So let's see, I can switch back out into Politoed now. You're going to end up sitting the grassy terrain. I think the best play is to probably double protect. We still haven't won this yet, actually, so we have to be careful because both of these Pokemon can protect. So if they protect the right one and pick up a knockout onto something else, they could still very easily claw their way back into this. Especially because Rillaboom kind of just wins against the Politoed Kingdra endgame here. So, this is not over. I think the best play here is to just double protect. Yeah, especially with Grassy Terrain recovery, we're just going to heal back up anyway. I like double protecting here. I can also see who's faster between Kingdra and their Pokemon. Okay. So let's see. I do think if they quaked into Zacian, even if it's not a KO, they would have put themselves in a better spot. And actually, by going for that Protect on a Metagross, I think we're in a really good spot. They're going for Woodhammer. Oh, okay, I see. That makes sense. I think now we just have to hope they don't get a double Protect off. Ooh, actually, our Kingdra's faster. Okay, that's actually a really big deal. Because that means I don't have to even switch out into Politoed here. That's why, like, I wanted to double protect here. Consider that you can use Terrain and Hail and whatnot to actually see, yeah, like, who's faster in these end games. So, I don't think switching in Politoed gives us very much here at all. So, I think now for my opponent, you hope for a double. Sacred Sword at +1 should KO. Yeah, because the first Sacred Sword did just under 50%, and they're at like 40 here. So we can just Sacred Sword and Draco Meteor. This covers pretty much every option. If you're my opponent, you need a double protect here. But they have Protect Rillaboom. Okay, yeah. I think what they're going for was hoping for me to target the Rillaboom slot now. But this Sacred Sword plus Draco play covers every option. So I think this is such a tough matchup for my opponent. I think they played so well, basically, like, in that early game to stall out my Dynamax. And the only... This is why, like, Pokemon is a game of, like, very thin margins, right? Especially if the matchup is bad for you. I would say my opponent played nearly perfectly, but then had one slight misplay in Hailstorming. Or maybe not even a misplay. You know, they were just maybe going for a prediction in that position. I think one thing that makes this team really well built that I didn't even talk about is the fact that it covers Zacian, both of Zacian's weaknesses really well. I talked about the fire weakness, but consider that there's also the ground type weakness, right? But you have Thundurus and Landorus in the back, so it's actually really tough to feel comfortable going for ground type attacks if you haven't seen all 4 of your opponent's Pokemon. So your opponent often is going to have to play, like, against their own mind a little bit because there's so much that they have to predict into. So I think that's what makes it even tougher. And yeah, this is an example of just like how a good matchup can often lead to victories, right? That's actually why team building in Pokemon is so important. You can be the best player in the world, but if your team doesn't give you the tools and the resources to win, you're still going to have to play really, really well. In this game, I think my opponent outplayed me in the majority of the turns, but because our team matched up so well, in the end, it didn't make that much of a difference. Is this Binja's team? I don't remember, actually. But my point here is that I think my opponent played super well, but it's just really tough for them, right? Like, the only thing I could say is, like, maybe they need to get Metagross in, and so you sacrifice something and not take any damage with it. But it's tough because they're not, like, that without the policy being activated, they're actually not doing that much damage to our end as well. So, yeah, I think it was just tough for them. And, like, I feel like they were pretty limited in their options. We had a great lead matchup. This is why I was saying, like, maybe you don't bring Yveltal. Like, Landorus-T could be a pretty interesting max option there, and you play around the Intimidate, but that's still kind of tricky. It's also like, do you really want to bring Landorus into a Rain matchup? Probably not. So, yeah. But I hope that this episode demonstrated how strong this team composition can be, because we didn't even play, like, super, super well, but, like, the team is just so well composed. It gives you so many options to work with, and, once again, like, it's not surprising to me often when I see these teams that hit, like, rank 1 on the ladder, because they are, you know, they take a bunch of Pokemon in conventional ways, and then they also have a couple of tricks up their sleeves, right? I think if you often want to win a big tournament or, like, get number 1 on the ladder or place very, very high up, you know, you have to have some creativity in team building, whether it be even just a specific move, a specific Pokemon, or running Pokemon in unconventional ways. Because the advantage that gives you right from the start is often huge and can really, really pay off, especially if you're a strong player. So, yeah. Either way, that's going to be it for this one. So, thank you so much as always for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to check out the original creator and the Ranto down in the description below. Feel free to try out the team yourselves. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all next time. Alright, peace.